All right. This is Jeff Moody. I'm here with Burnout Breakthroughs today, and we're so thrilled and so lucky to have JT McCormick on the show today and start a watch party. You can get this message out to as many people as possible. Go to jeffmoody.com, connect with us on Facebook at JeffMoodyMD. But the main thing I want to do is get this message out about how to get burnout kind of looked at, taken care of, under control. And we're just, again, so lucky to have JT McCormick with us today. He's the CEO of Scribe Media. They are in charge of, and full disclosure, they helped me put out my book. And I basically say they're in charge of getting the knowledge in your head out into the world. And it's been an incredible journey. I am a much better human being for knowing Tucker Max, who is the founder of the company, as well as JT, and I feel a great debt of gratitude to them. So again, I'm doubly indebted for him being on my live stream today. JT has a amazing personal story, and I think if you really want to know the whole story, you have to go get his book, I Got There, which is an unbelievable story. And what I really want to talk with JT about today is he has been, and Scribe has been voted as the #1 corporate culture in state of Texas or in the US, JT?
In the US, Entrepreneur Magazine rated us the #1 company culture in America.
Yeah, so, and I feel that the corporate or the hospital culture, some of the cultures in medicine are very healthy and lead to burnout. So first, if you don't, give us your capsule on your personal story, if you would, because I think it's amazing.
Oh, wow. Let's see. So
if you can,
where do you want to start on that one, Jeff? That's an open-ended question.
You start wherever you want. You're driving the bus.
So I don't want to bore people with the background of it, so I'll give you the brief overview. So I came into the world very harsh circumstances. My father was a black pimp and drug dealer back in the 70s. And he also managed to father 23 children. So I'm one of 23. And then my mother is white. She is a orphan. She grew up in a 1950s institutional orphanage. I don't know where my last name comes from. My mom got the last name McCormick in the orphanage. And when she gave birth to me, my father wasn't around. So she gave me her last name. And Jeff, I was in and out of juvenile 3 different times. I was sexually molested by one of my dad's prostitutes from the ages of 6, 7, and 8 years old. I don't have a college degree. In fact, I only have my GED, so there's no college degree. But I never allowed those things to stop me from where I wanted to go in life. For me, it's always been, don't be a victim. And because I can't change the past. So I've always made the choice to look back at my past and say, okay, what lessons can I take from those circumstances? Because there's always positives in negative situations. Sometimes you have to dig deep and dig hard, but I choose to find the positives in negative situations. And again, chaotic background, tough background, obviously, but I'm all the better for it.
That is, every time I hear you tell that, like, I get chills, because I mean, to come from such a tough beginning to where you are now, I think is just, I think, incredible, and a testament to your learning process as well, because you kept learning, you kept getting better, you kept refining, you kept moving. It's just, it's an incredible story. And I wish everyone would get the book. It's an unbelievable book.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you, sir.
So as far as my real question, my central question for today is, since the culture in medicine, I think, is so, it's very archaic. It's very kind of, we've always done it this way, so we're going to continue to do it this way for the next 100 years. I think so. It's very entrenched, but I think it's also fairly damaging. And because it's so entrenched, there's not a big willingness to change. So I guess my real question is, what are the components of good corporate culture, or good culture in general, to allow people to do what they're good at, and to be, I guess, valued and fostered, encouraged, to grow?
Jeff, I'll speak on our behalf because I'm sure there's people who are going to disagree. People are going to have differences of opinions, but I'll speak on behalf of what works for us. People first. Always put the people first. I believe you can't go wrong when you put people first. There's three ways I go about business: people, process, profits. And unfortunately, in our country, so many companies get those out of order. They'll
Yeah.
put profits before
Profits,
people.
number one.
Yeah, and profits are number one. And okay, that it's a way, but I don't believe it's the best way. I believe if you have great people, treat them well, respect them, that great people will build great process, and you can make great profits. It's the damnedest thing. You can make a lot of money and do well all at the same time. Who knew?
So basically, if you have the right components, so to speak, or the right tools, and give people the right direction, they will figure out the best way to do it. And then, as almost like a byproduct or a surprise, it's successful, it's profitable. That's not the goal. That's kind of the result or the outcome, but that's never the goal.
Totally. Here's a big one. We are not big on hours worked, meaning I don't care if you're in your chair at 8 a.m. I don't care if you're there at 8 p.m. The goal is, are you driving results? Are you performing in your role? If you're doing those two things, great, phenomenal. And so if you can accomplish those two things, working 2 hours a week, beautiful. I'm going to come hang out with you and find out what you're doing.
That's right. That's right. We want to hire more of you.
Right. Let's find out what's going on here. But you're not going to impress anyone if you say, oh my God, I put in 90 hours last week. It's going to be quite the opposite. We're going to ask, okay, why did you do that? Especially if you can't show the results for a 90-hour work week. Now, the other thing is, and I'm very cautious of this, if someone wants to work a 90-hour work week, that's fine. Because here's the thing. Some people love what they do. They're passionate about it, and it's not work to them. Beautiful. I get it. But if you're finding yourself having to work 90 hours a week to drive the necessary results and performing your role, we got to have a conversation, because something's not working right there. And that's the problem. Most companies won't address it and look at it from that perspective.
So you would say that probably the two most critical things are having well-defined results and a well-defined role, and then let people go. Like, you get after it, do it whatever way they find works best for them.
Yes, not going to micromanage.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is, here's another piece of our culture. We do not have, no one works for me. Everyone works with me. So I'm no one's boss. There's no one. Everyone works for me. This is my team. No, none of that.
The kingdom,
Yes, everyone works with me. I'm no more important than everyone else in the organization. And so we don't have direct reports. We have direct supports. If you are in leadership, your sole role is to support those people you serve. That's it. That is your role. Support the people you serve.
See, that's a great point, because I think so many people, and especially even in medicine, that gets flipped around. Like, we kind of feel like everyone is in support of us, like the doctor is at the top of the pyramid, so to speak. And I think we do a lot of training, we do a lot, there's life, kind of changing, life saving decisions that depend on us. But I think maybe flipping that on our heads, so we're more like, what can we do to support the team, would probably feed back and be more beneficial for everyone, including the patient and us. So.
Totally. Here's a great way. This is great for your profession, Jeff. Think of it this way. I'm going to give you a quick story. About a year ago, I kept hearing the team, we call ourselves a tribe. I kept hearing the tribe talk about, that's a low-level task. That's a low-level task. We need to hire someone to do that low-level task. And I couldn't figure out, what the hell are these low-level tasks you speak of? And so one day we were having lunch here on a Friday. We bring lunch into the office, so almost everyone's here. So there's about 50 people here, and I heard someone say it at lunch. And I stopped the company in its tracks.
Oh.
Yes. And I said, everybody come to the table. I said,
Yes.
even those people who are remote, get them on a
Yeah.
screen right now.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, has everyone here, and most people had, I said, everyone here has seen me take out the trash before, right? And they were like, oh, yeah. I said, some of you have even seen me clean the storage closet, right? Yes. And I said, and those of you who have traveled to conferences with me have even seen me on my hands and knees ironing the display cloth, right? They're like, yes. I said, so what the hell are these low-level tasks you speak of? I go, because I'm willing to do everything. So there are no low-level tasks. There are merely tasks, duties, and responsibilities. That's it. And then I took it a step further, and this was the part that it really opened everyone's eyes. I said, how in the hell could you ever expect someone to perform at their highest level when you're referring to what they do as low level? How's that? I mean, I said, put that together. And people really woke up to it. So there's no such thing as low level task. Let the trash overflow for 2 weeks, Jeff. Let's see how low level it is then.
It becomes very high level all of a sudden,
Yes.
so you're like, oh my God, this is a disaster. There are, vermin, in
Right.
the,
Let one of the surgery rooms not get cleaned up for 3 days. Let's see how low level that is.
yeah. I mean, that's a great way to think about that. And how, what was the upshot, or what would you feel like was the change in mentality? Everyone started to look at the fact that there's a block of work that needs to get done, and whatever that is, we're going to do whatever it takes to get it done.
Totally. The mind shift sometimes, Jeff, in my opinion, is it's just hasn't been said out loud.
Yeah.
That sometimes that's all it takes is someone to say it out loud. We had a coffee spill on the steps, and I wanted to see how long is this coffee spill going to stay on the steps, and it stayed there 3 days. And I said to I brought everybody together, and I said, hey, I'm not above cleaning up this coffee spill, but we as a company, all of us walk up and down these stairs. Why is no one taking initiative to clean the stairs? And it's not a matter of I'm too good to clean it. I'll clean it up right now. But I want to know why we let that sit there. And so, that's another one of our culture principles is impeccable attention to detail. And so all those little things that people are willing to call out, express, show people a different way, then they become the mantra within the company, but they have to be top of mind all the time.
Okay. So now we're gonna ask a question about me, or about physician, a burned out. Let's say I'm a burned out doctor working in a large hospital system. What's either the first step or the best step I can take as an individual to start to make a change in corporate culture in a large system or a large institution where maybe I'm not in charge?
I would say it always takes one person to be the example. If Jeff, if you're the guy that's going 120 hours a week, everyone's looking at you as the measurement of, oh gosh, Dr. Moody's going 120. I got to at least put in 100, and it's that you are the measurement. And if that mentality, that culture allows to continue without someone raising their hand, being willing to challenge the status quo, if you will, it's just going to be the same thing. It's going to be a repeatable cycle. I'll give you a great example of this. I'll take it away from corporate America.
Yeah.
As a kid, and we see this right now in our country, if I'm a young girl and I live in public housing with my grandmother who had 5 kids, maybe with 4 different men. And then my mom lives in the same apartment with us who had 4 or 5 kids, maybe 2, 3 different men. What do we believe is going to happen to the 13-year-old girl? Most likely, not always, she's going to go down the same path. Yeah. So if people see, now I'll bring it back to corporate America, if people see that Dr. Moody started here, but man, he put in 120 all the time and he got here, well, what do we think is going to happen? All of the new people coming in are going to want to work 120 to achieve what Dr. Moody's done. If no one breaks the system, the cycle, it just repeats itself.
I think that's a great point, because I think one of the things that there's a very much of a lone ranger mentality in medicine. And again, there's a very much like, it's always been done this way, so we can't ever think of different ways to do it. I think probably what I would take away from that is we have to figure out better and more efficient ways to do the work that we have done. And then also, it doesn't have to be just me. It doesn't have let's develop a team approach to maybe, improving corporate culture and improving the work environments for all healthcare providers, not just doctors, but nurses and respiratory techs and everybody else who works in the hospital. We see, unbelievable amounts of effort and heroism, but should a system have to depend on that? That's always my point. Should it always have to fall to heroic acts? I'm like, then that means that system's going to break, because that you can't depend on that. That's not a good long-term strategy, I guess, is the way I think of it.
You nailed it, Jeff. I mean, I'll give from a personal standpoint. I used to be a big fan of the hustle word.
Right.
And what was interesting is I won't use the word anymore for two reasons. One, I do believe, yes, you do need to sleep. You perform better when you sleep. I was notorious for going off of 3 and 4 hours of sleep. And some people have pushed back and they're like, oh, well, JT, that's easy for you to say that you need to sleep now that you've become successful.
You've made it. Yeah.
You're right. My pushback to them is, no, I actually believe I would be further along had I taken 6 hours of sleep back in my early 20s to now. It took me to my 40s to realize, oh, the sleep thing's kind of real. And the other piece of it too is people have destroyed the word hustle, and they equate that to no sleep. Hustle also means driving results.
Right.
Just because you didn't sleep doesn't mean you accomplished anything, doesn't mean you hustled. So the word hustle has been really destroyed, in my opinion. So I just refuse to use it.
Okay, so I have a question for you, given the current state of race relations in the United States. As a very successful, influential African-American male in charge of a successful company, what do you think are the most important takeaways or steps that we can take to detect and root out or take care of bias in a culture?
So I'm going to, Jeff, I say this with the utmost respect. So don't kick me off the show or disconnect me when I say this. But one of the pieces is right there. You heard me say in the beginning, I have a Black father and a white mother. And it's interesting, in this country, people still refer to me as African American or Black, if you will. But the fact of the matter is I'm half white, half Black. I'm no more proud of being half white than I am of being half Black. But for one reason or another, I'm deemed Black man because I got a Black father. And that in itself has bothered me in the past. It even bothered me when I watched Obama get elected, because I was proud being mixed race, like, oh, sweet, someone that's mixed race is president. Like, yeah. But exactly like me. But all I heard was first black president. And I'm like, no, he's the first mixed race president. And so that in itself is a start. And then the second piece to that, I will say as well, for me, how do we improve on the quality of where we are for race in this country? The things that are important for me, because there's many aspects, but I'll just go to the one that's important for me. We don't know what we don't know. In the communities that I come from, I grew up with heroin addicts, drug dealers, pimps, murders, so on and so forth, poverty. And it wasn't until I was 34 years old that I even knew what a barista was. That's sad. And so I've always said to people, if I live in a lower economic community that doesn't even have a Whole Foods, how the hell am I supposed to know what organic food is? How am I supposed to know what a barista is if there's no Starbucks in my community? So for me, I've always been of the mindset of show and tell. I have been the benefactor of capitalism. I have reaped the benefits of understanding how capitalism works, but how are people from the communities that I come from supposed to even know capitalism exists when there's literally very little of it within these communities?
Right.
It's sad that the low economic communities have been deemed food deserts, meaning there's not even grocery stores in these places,
Right.
but I can find a liquor store, a payday loan, and fast food. I can find all three of those
Right.
in lower economic communities. So for me, race is important, yes, but it's also an economic thing. If we don't show people what exists or what can be, how the hell can they ever even aspire to those things?
That's a great point. And I'm sorry about calling you African American, but
Jeff, no apology needed, man. I always say tell people, I'm like, look, I'm mixed race. I'm half white, half black. I'm proud of both.
but what I think, to me, that just points out the fact that, like, people model behavior that they've seen, and it could be positive or could be negative. Like you said, if the only thing they've ever had to eat is fast food, then that's probably what they maybe perceive as a good diet. So that's a great point.
Yeah,
But
the last point on that one, real fast too, Jeff. I've been asked this question: what helped me get to where I am? There's never one thing. There was obviously a lot of little things that I had to do. But when I was 10 years old, my dad drove me through a community here in Houston. It was in Houston, Texas. It's one of the wealthiest communities in the country. It's River Oaks. And it was the first time that I saw 10, 15, $25 million homes, that one family lived in these homes. And they were bigger than the housing projects that I lived in. And I remember saying to myself, wow, I want one of those.
yeah,
But it showed me what was possible.
possibilities.
Up until that point,
Yeah.
I never even knew those things existed. So
Right.
how would I have ever aspired to those things
Right.
if I didn't know what existed?
Kind of expand your world,
Yes.
so to speak. Cool, very cool. All right, I have one last question, and then I'll stop bugging you. What's next?
I'm good. Keep them going.
What's next for Scribe? What's next for you? What's keeping you excited and moving forward?
Expanding. We've been in the incredible position, and I say this humbly, that as with the great majority of the country, in March, we took a big hit, revenue wise. But I remember sitting back, probably this is definitely the most proud moment of my career. I'll be 49 years old this month, and this has been the most proud moment of my career over these last 6 months. I remember sitting there saying to ourselves, wow, we're a luxury brand. People don't have to have a book. And saying, okay, what are we going to do? And one of the very first things we did, we announced to the entire tribe, our company, that we would not lay off anyone. And that for me is one of the greatest moments that in my career, because I remember going through the credit crisis, the recession, and having to do layoffs and things of that nature. And so, yes. And so here we were. We took a hit in March, but we came back and had our second best revenue month in company history in April. Then we broke that record in May, broke it in June, broke it in July. And so
maybe I hate to say it, but maybe the pandemic woke people up to the possibility that they could write a great book with you.
Yeah. And again, it was a great moment. Now I'll take this back to where we started and putting people first. I remember people posting pictures on Slack. We had several tribe members who had children during all of this. Several were in the middle of closing on homes during all of this. And I remember smiling every time I would see those photos. And it was so meaningful to know that people could have that peace of mind knowing they were secure in their roles and it was okay to close on that house. Their benefits were in place to take care of their families. And that's really what meant the most to me.
That's terrific. That speaks very highly, again, of your corporate culture and of you as the kind of architect of that culture. We did the same thing. We told our employees, we're like, look, we're not laying you off. We're going to restructure how you work. We did a lot of remote patient visits and those types of things. And we said, if this is a short-term thing, the last thing you want to do is dismantle your whole company
Right.
and then have to rebuild it. I mean, in a one month time span. So we absolutely didn't want to do that. And and I feel like sometimes in medicine you're kind of a utility. You're like, you turn on the faucet, water comes out. You flip the light switch, and the electricity comes on. I always kind of joke, you open the faucet and a urologist comes out. So we're kind of always we have to be available. So that was important to us, for the people, and to continue to provide service to the community. So that was a big deal. We didn't pay ourselves for 3 months, but we made sure that everybody else got paid. So I think that was very important. And I completely agree. Without your people, you don't really have anything.
No, I mean, it's what makes all of this go around. And I understand, I was once the president of a software company, and, there's a mindset in software that, oh, well, you don't actually need that many people, and you just need people to code. For me, I don't care what the industry is, always put people first.
Yep, no matter what your product is. So in summary, JT, what I would say, what I learned today is that I need to be a good example, and then we lead that example and define new roles and responsibilities, and do people, process, and profits. And I think that's a great way to start corporate culture change in medicine, and a great way to get burnout under control. So I really, 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 really thank you. This has been great. And I feel like one of my remote mentors and an idol. And I'm just so thrilled to be able to get to talk to you. So
I appreciate it, Jeff. And if you would allow me, one thing that I would say as well that I do, share your mistakes with those folks who look up to you, aspire to be, Dr. Moody. Share your mistakes. Say, hey, I did it wrong. Don't go 120. I should not have put in 120 hours and sacrificed my health. Share the mistakes of the things you did wrong. I find it very interesting in our country that we all have been taught we learn the most from our mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
But what's mind-blowing to me is very few people share their mistakes. I can go online and I can find blog posts of the top 10 things Jeff Bezos did to be successful, top 5 things Steve Jobs did. I don't care about their success list. Can I get the top 10 mistake list? Give me that list.
Top 10 biggest mistakes, they
Yes.
ever made.
So that's all I got.
Great. And thank you. I appreciate that. And burnout breakthroughs, keep coming, keep watching. We're going to keep doing these until we get burnout under control in America, for our physicians and for all workers. JeffMoody.com, JeffMoodyMD.com. Find us on Facebook, find me on LinkedIn, find me at my office. So love to see people, love to interact about this. And again, JT, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Take care.